Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Greg Schmidt and I'll be the presenter for today and taking you through our main topic of eliminating efficiencies in your accounts payable department and doing it in a phased approach. There are a few things worse than chasing down a paper trail and discovering an invoice doesn't match a purchase order or doesn't have a PO at all. In such cases, automation can go a long way in making AP a much happier and more efficient department. Webdocs AP Automation improves your data capture, speeds up your invoice processing, and makes integration into your ERP and payment processing painless. It saves you time and money and prevents costly errors. And today you will see how we can help remove the time-consuming manual hand keying of data to your ERP and facilitate an invoice capture automation and routing methods for secure yet simple processing, streamline the data and application integration for better management and visibility, and we will also be bringing time savings during this whole process by removing the bottlenecks and redundant tasks inside of the AP automation process. So here's a quick look at today's agenda that I'll be covering, starting out with introductions, a little bit of a company overview on what we do here, and then move into the main topic today of taking a phased approach to accounts payable automation. And then I'll be doing a live demonstration and talking about our Webdocs for AP automation solution and some of the different functionality that it has. And then also be showing those different interfaces from what we call a day in the life of an AP approver and AP teammate. Then we'll finish up with some Q&A if time permits towards the end. And remember, today's event is being recorded, and you receive a link to the recording after the event is over. And then you can use this to rewatch anything that you might have missed during the presentation. Or if someone in your organization could not attend today's event, you can forward that link as well. Again, my name is Greg Schmidt. I'm a 23-year veteran here at Fortra in the solutions engineering department, with my specialties really in the document and forms automation that we'll be talking about today, and also the business intelligence area. I've been key in helping companies automate their data and document processes and streamline their often troublesome and very cumbersome business processes with technology and strategic planning for digital transformation for documents and data. I also help guide companies in best practices for implementation and solution expansion within their organizations. I have over a decade's worth of experience in the IBMI report and data distribution and robotic process automation technology areas. At Fortra, the document and forms automation solutions have been helping companies for decades on their digital transformation and automation journeys. Our mission truly is to help companies bring efficiencies to their business processes by streamlining the way companies create, capture, securely manage, and distribute their business documents, processes, and business data. The document and forms management lifecycle is how documents flow through an organization's process. Understanding these document stages is critical to optimizing the capture, management, distribution, and security of business information. Fortra has a variety of solutions to assist you at every phase of the life cycle, helping you save money and increase those efficiencies. We have a variety of solutions in 4 key business areas that help you at every step of the journey. So the first one is the secure document and workflow automation. And this can be used for your IBMI system reports. It can be used for all your Windows-based kind of solutions. So we have solutions on both areas. And then we have our intelligent forms and workflow automation to start that beyond the paper process and make everything more digital and reinforce the whole process and the form data collection in the forms via the web browser for compliance and regulatory purposes. Accounts receivable automation. So we have accounts receivable automation, document capture capabilities from like spool files or generated documents and capture them into the system, but also document creation processes. And then last of all, the topic that we're going to be discussing today is the accounts payable automation. So we can truly help you at every step of this automation journey and with different kinds of capabilities that are built into the solution. Fortra's Webdocs for AP solution helps companies to bring the appropriate levels of automation and dramatically improve invoice processing by truly streamlining the processing and automating the matching processes in most cases, right? And then creating business rules to assign approval levels and for different kinds of business rules like variances and people that might process different vendor invoices. We define automation around those workflow and approval processes, so they go the right direction. So no one's chasing down people to get those sign-offs. And then a big part of the process here too is integrating it into your package, right? So with the Webdocs for AP solution that we'll be talking about today, towards the end, I have some slides that I'll be talking about ways that we can integrate into business systems, if they have the capability to, or if they don't, we have ways to be able to do it from more of a front of glass kind of solution. But all the different things that we talk about today is really going to show you how we can bring back some of those efficiencies back to the AP department and different resources that you're using for processing. All right, and I have a few of these slides in here today just to sort of bring up the did you know slides. 46% of small to medium businesses confirm they waste time every day on paper intense processes and approvals, and have lost the ability to enforce the processes around these approvals. Because when you have paper, or if it's inside of emails, it's very hard to enforce those different kinds of processes. To start out, if you don't already know, you need to understand why companies are looking and needing an AP automation solution in their organizations. Every day, the accounts payable team are asked to do more with less, process more invoices with fewer people, inadequate automation and technology, and sometimes misaligned operational processes. And these are the challenges that are coming over the years, and we're getting something that over the last few years is what the Great Resignation, right? And some of the other things that are happening is pending retirements. People are getting older, right? So we need to be able to increase the efficiencies of these teams, not so much replace the individuals, but use technology to be able to help the current team that's there. And that being said, if you look at the number one problem in AP departments, the large majority of it is the intensive and inefficient manual business processes. And some of the components of this process that are intensive or insignificant are, the manual data entry process and document preparation that has to take place. Manual 2- and 3-way matching is very time consuming and painful for a lot of the organizations that we talk to and work with. The manual routing and approvals. This is an area where there are a lot of lost and forgotten documents that get misplaced, and no one ever finds them. And then last of all, duplicate and late invoices that either get paid twice or never get paid on time. People ain't taking. Sometimes you can take advantage of early pay discounts. So being able to start that profit center kind of a structure is a huge part of the process. And a few of the other ways we are helping with the solution is the solution brings standardization to your business with automation. Improves the business insights across the entire organization. Can help you earn those, what I was just talking about, earn those early cash back discounts. So you can pay faster, right? Improve compliance and supplier relations by getting things done quicker. And last of all, redirect your team's time toward higher value activities and not the painful, monotonous tasks. When organizations are looking at AP automation solutions, there's always a short list that people are going off of, and here's some of that short list, right? That people would really come to us and look for. And if you look out in the industry, this is what people are needing, right? To be able to supply, to some of those, pain points that they're having, right? The list, the list of must-haves, sometimes looks like this, right? Automated document capture, some kind of way to be able to capture those documents in the system. Document classification and OCR data extraction processes, so that that information automatically gets captured and processed. Incoming invoices, matching processes for incoming invoices and purchase orders, or two or three-way matching, right? PO and non-PO based ones. Monitor tasks through completion. So it's something that monitors from the incoming document and more of a workflow kind of a process, right? So being able to configure that automation process and invoice routing process to your business, and not just to this is more of a template kind of a feel, but I need to format it to more of my business needs and configure it to those business needs. And in that sense too, is being able to set up escalations and notifications. So you can set deadlines or whatever the SLA of the business is, to be able to offer that and push that out to the end user, so approval processes happen faster and quicker. Connect seamlessly to the ERP systems. That is a huge part of it, because if you can do all the front end stuff and not the back end, that's a problem, right? So being able to feed the data that it gets extracted and approved and entered in during a process, and being able to take that information and put it into the ERP system, into that, the vouchering and payment process. Secure document storage, having somewhere on the end where you can go back to, that you can get to those documents either from your ERP screen or from our application or a web browser. Built-in user-in-the-loop workflow interfaces, being able to interact at different points inside of a process flow and an automation flow. And if users are needed to do something, we can bring users back into that flow and then submit it back to the automation tasks. All right, and one of the big things too is, when we talk about automation, there really is no need for either the business or users to fear the word automation. Automation is not about replacing staff, with software. It's about streamlining routine tasks to focus your team on solving problems technology can't. Our Webdocs for AP automation solution makes life easier for your accounts payable team. You need to hire these. You didn't really hire these people just for data entry and chasing down invoices and manually matching POs and envelope stuffing, right? Webdocs, the accounts payable automation, with the advanced capture solution, gives you and your employees the capability to, do the paperless invoice process and to save your organization and AP team valuable time and money. Automation never sleeps. So processing your invoices 24/7 and bringing back efficiency to your business, and letting your users be more of the verification process inside of that flow. And doing so, they will get what is called the human value of automation. So that is a key part about this. Then we'll be talking about this here a little bit later as well, is that the human value of automation. Now look at the current AP process without automation. It looks something like this, right? In this process flow, there are 14 steps start to finish, from vendor submits invoice to customer, all the way down to routing documents for filing, and then document search and retrieval. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in the middle of this process. And after the process, we put AP automation is implemented. Here's a true picture of what the human value of automation really looks like, right? The solution is not only cutting out steps to the process, but it is also providing efficiencies with technology and removing some of the manual time-consuming tasks that the AP team, must manage. By removing these tasks, from your AP team, you can now focus your AP team on more important business functions within the department or organization. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the phased approach capabilities here. So um, now, when we talk about the first stage that is critical to the success, is that deeper requirements are needed to be able to do configuration during implementation, right? When it comes to taking a phased approach to the AP implementation, we look at that first stage being vital to the success of the completion of the project, sometimes called step zero. Because when you're doing a phased approach, you still need to know what the end goal is and what the phases are needed for the project's success. So, talking about step zero, we can actually start the process out by getting more definition around some of those, definition around some of those, fine-tuned areas inside the solution. Here's a look at, sort of identifying the AP requirements. The first thing you need to do in an AP requirements, project, when like I was talking about, is that step zero kind of thing. Before you really can identify the different phases, is to define and gather the requirements that are needed for the project's success, right? So requirements can be broken down into a few high-level areas, right? Look at the document capture process, right? Data extraction requirements, data validation requirements. So that would be around the data validation and to and through and matching processes, routing and workflow processes and business rules. And then that key piece is the ERP updating. How is that going to happen, or what is the current capabilities? Do we have to build something? Is there another way that we can accomplish that, that task? And some of the detailed requirements that fall under these areas, that we look at is, hey, the incoming document volumes. What are those per year, per month, per week, and how does that affect your staff, right? Percentage of documents, paper versus email. Number of processors processing these, number of vendors and customers in the vendor master and customer master. Integration and validation processes in the ERP. What does the system have today that we can reuse, or do you want our solution, to be able to front end that to and through a matching, or do we have to, format the data in a certain way to be able to feed the solution, your ERP solution, that information? Vouchering processes, how does that happen inside of your ERP system? How do we need to feed that information to it? Approval process, this is a big one. Inside the organization, is there different departments? Is there different locations? Is there different stages or approval limits, depending on values and stuff like that, or by vendors? How does that process work? GL coding process, is GL coding done in the ERP system by AP? Is it done by the user doing the approvals? How does that process work? And then, like I already said, the matching process. Does that matching process happen in your ERP system? Is there a two-way match? Is there a three-way match required? What is required, for your process to, to be able to do all that validation? And then the data extraction requirement. Is it just header footer information, or do we need the line item information to do validation off of? So we look at those different areas of the business. The last one is very important to remember. The last thing that's very important to remember is not to forget the beginning, process, right? And make sure you identify the right team, right? So the first part of this is bring in the right team to this. You might have a small team that starts this, but you do need to bring in people as you go through this process to be able to, get more. I'll call it more of the individual process, the people that are working the process, right? So make sure that you bring in the right people, because that is key to success. And listen to what they're saying and how they're doing their work, so you can really bring some of those efficiencies back, right? If someone's really spending a lot of time in a certain area and it's really inefficient and it's really painful, see if technology can help them with that. because the solution that we offer is very customizable and configurable, I should say, not customizable. It's more configurable to the business user, processes and stuff like that, and it can be fine-tuned to the business. Now, when it comes to the AP process, not all AP processes are created equally. I have been in the AP automation and document automation business for 2+ decades now, and the first thing our clients say when we start working with them is we have a standard AP process just like everyone else. I always have to chuckle a little when I hear that because every company's AP process is different. Now, there are some similarities, like how documents come into the organization and how the updates to the ERP and vouchering process happens. But what needs attention more often than not is the process in the middle. So if you look at the middle of the process it's the business process, right? It's the approval process. It's how things are flowing. That is why our Webdocs for AP automation solution is highly configurable to your organization. And by being configurable, it also gives you strategic advantages so you can grow into the solution, but more importantly, configure the system as the business changes over the years. And and there's no need to replace or buy other software if the business requirements change. The software can be configured differently. That's one of the nice things about, having something that's configurable, to the organization. Now you might need to increase your document process counts or something like that if you increase your volumes and stuff count, or your user counts, in the archive, if your business grows. But that's a small cost to the business, and you don't have to re-implement something, right? Just reconfigure in some cases if some of those different business rules. And most of the configuration can be done by your team, and sometimes with our guidance if need be. This slide is a sample AP automation product that is broken down into phases that might be taken during an implementation. And one of the big reasons we break it into phases is so that you can see ROI earlier in the implementation process. So if you look at that, we start with phase one, implementing the intelligent capture and definition process, right? Teaching it, getting it smarter during that process. Then we can put in the workflow and approval process inside of there. So that's a nice thing that we can do there. To and through and matching, so fine tuning some of those different things there. Document security, and access to your ERP system. Do we just have the archive separate, or do you want it integrated into your application screens? Working with vendors and document, collection processes. So that, so that's another, piece there. So now let's take these and let me break them down. I have a few other slides here that breaks these down to sort of talk about these different phases. But it's really the whole process around these different areas, starting with the one that's the most critical part of an AP automation process is the intelligent classification and OCR and data extraction process, right? It's the beginning of the whole entire process. So it's very important. This process can be highly configured to each business and process or document sets that are being captured. The technology has intelligence out of the gate that you can get about 60 to 70% plus at the start with what we call actions or invoice actions capabilities. With with these intelligence packs, it sort of gets you started, right? From that standpoint. We will talk a little bit more about this a little bit later as you see as I'm going through the some of the presentation and some of the live demonstration. You'll see how those the invoice actions can be picked up and stuff like that, and you can use some of the technology to be more of the self-learning process at that point. You can also create business rules inside the solution during the capture process to remove some of the human touch that is normally needed in some of those manual processes. A business rule is a rule how a document needs to be processed, like a variance between an invoice or a PO, line item verification, payment term verification, approval routing. It's things like that. And if your ERP doesn't have the capability or lacks some of the features needed, you can use our built-in workflow and approval system. And I will tell you, most companies use our workflow system outside of the ERP system because it gives it more of a natural flow for a user. This workflow system can support your organization's approval process that might be vendor-based, departmental-based, or limit-based, or amount-based approvals within your organization. If your ERP already has it, though, we can configure our solution to work with your ERP system to be able to do that and sort of do that handoff in between there. The next phase is usually around matching. Something is some kind of matching needs to be done, and most of that's done manual today, right? In some cases. But first, let's define what is three-way matching in accounting, right? A three-way match compares, for accuracy across like a purchase order, receipt, and invoice. Most ERP systems already have functionality built into it, so you are welcome to use that. And our Webdocs for AP solution can feed the data into that directly. If it doesn't have it or it's lacking, you can use our system and configure it basically for a holding tank for the to and through a matching process. And when the matches are complete, it will automatically process that information to your ERP system with the appropriate data. As you will see in the live demonstration today, the interface can be used for approvals, or you'll see that it might be still awaiting some kind of match inside of our system for those documents to come in. Document access and security is very important, in any organization or process. The Webdocs for AP system has a built-in repository in the background, but also that workflow that's built in with full capabilities of secure document management, so you can access archives of documents, inside of AP or outside of AP. It's got a built-in web interface, so you can choose, or you could choose to build it in directly to your ERP screens with some of our integration technology. Webdocs offers a variety of ways to integrate with those ERP systems to be able to push or pull documents in different kinds of experiences to the users, like I was talking about. So we have RESTful APIs that you can build in. We have URL and hot linking capabilities for applications. So we have all those different ways to be able to do that. Or if you're using green screens, like terminal screens and stuff like that, 5250 screens, we do have integration toolkits to be able to build into those as well. And last of all, when it comes to working with vendors, there are a few areas um, that can help you, sort of talk to your vendors, and that it's around that collection process, right? The document collection process. If they are not already, they can send you documents electronically via email so that you can take advantage of the full automation capabilities, right? No one has to scan documents. We can just monitor email inboxes. Or you can also, we can provide like a portal that can be set up in our solution or in the solution to automatically watch and capture. So we have some technology that can go out and reach out to those different areas and pull that information in. So there's different things that you can do there. So to be able to, set up some of those optimization things. Sometimes that's not an option. Step 5 is our vendors do this, and this is the only way they're going to do it. You really can't push them, but you can guide them a little bit if need be. Now, one of the questions that I get and that we get here at Fortra on the document and forms automation team a lot, is when we're implementing, or during the pre-sales process, is how long does it take to get value out of the system, or how can we get faster business value before the project implementation is completed? And the answer, is you can get value or benefits, pretty much the day one or first week, right? And these benefits start with the core document management system. So that's the base system where everything's being stored at, and all that information is being stored at. So being able to put that in first to be able to manage some of the other supporting documentation inside of there is a huge part of that, right? So you could put reports in there, you could put other kinds of system generated content, user reports, user documents, and integrate into there before you actually use it for the advanced capture process and the full process. So there's different ways to be able to take advantage out of those, or to take advantage of some of those core functions before the whole system takes effect. And here's another, did you know, in the past 18 months, 65% of organizations are looking to bring some level of automation to their AP process so they can process invoices faster. And this just keeps climbing, pretty much every year. This that one keeps, climbing and climbing. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Webdocs accounts payable automation capabilities. Now, here's a look at what the Webdocs for accounts payable full automation process looks like. And like I was talking about earlier, you can take more of a phased approach on your AP automation journey. So if you want to be able to do, more just invoice capture and then process the data to the ERP system, or if you want to bring in some kind of workflow process in the middle, you can definitely do that from a process standpoint. And here's another look at the stages of the accounts payable automation and what I like to call the AP automation journey, right? Now, we're talking about starting at the capture and then moving to transform, verify, approval, export, and utilize. But we can start, if your ERP system does not have the functionality today, we can start the process with one of our packages, with our forms package on the front end of this, and create a workflow process in a form to be able to facilitate the PO creation and approval process that can then launch into the whole capture and verify and approve processes and stuff like that. So we can work inside of those different things. It's just depending on what your ERP or your business has capability today. If you need to start that back in the beginning of the process, we can step it back one step and actually start with that create part and create a PO process there. And a reason why, and here's another, and the reason why this is important, another one here is reports found the medium number of invoices processed by an AP team has climbed over 28% year over year, and headcount has dropped 12%. So process doing more with less, right? So that's what that's very important, for businesses to put in automation or something like that, because the invoice processing, which is good that the invoice numbers are climbing year over year, right? But people are retiring or leaving the organizations and stuff like that. That tribal knowledge leaves with them at that point, so it's harder and harder for AP teams to process stuff. So being able to bring technology in can help them. All right, we're going to switch over to the live demo here and talk about the AP automation solution, the Webdocs AP automation solution, and how that can help your organization. In today's demo, it's going to be focused around, like I said, the AP professionals and approvers. And what does that process look like for them inside of there? The first slide we're going to talk about here, though, and then I'm going to sort of go in between the slides and show some of the live stuff as I go through here. But there's sort of three different areas that this can flow through, right? It's called straight through processing. This is the ultimate process here up on top. Everything needs to go to what we call verified processing, and all the business rules pass. Everything goes into the Webdocs system, and the data goes to the ERP system, and everything's done and goes to vouchering and payments. The second one is sort of what I call it day in the life of AP, right? And there's two different interfaces for this one. There is a desktop client and a web browser client. The web browser client is becoming more and more popular because people are obviously working remote, and also zero footprint implementation, from an end user standpoint. But this will be the interface that I'll be showing here today in the first part of the demonstration to do verifying invoice processing, right? Oh, something broke on the invoice or couldn't read something, and we need to do verification, not data entry, but verification. And this is the same interface that we can use to teach the software how to get smarter too. So use some of the self-learning capability there inside of the application. Now that last step down here, step 3, is the three-way matching and approval process. Being able to push documents into an approval process if things fail during that process. Now the process does start with automated capture. So being able to automate the capture process, so however those documents are coming into the organization, if they're still coming in paper, for monitoring an email account or email accounts. We can monitor network folders for transactions. We can also look for EDI transactions. So if you don't have an EDI process today, we can actually facilitate the EDI process. So all your processing and business rules are completed through the same entire process. And then, like I said, we do have an extra module that you can add on, our RPA module, for website monitoring capability to monitor some of those different some of the different sites. All right here, so let me get over here. I want to take a couple invoices and process those through so you can see this. I'm going to drop these, and this is just really sort of the back end process, right? So this is just simulating some of the different the way documents are being processed by the system. So you see that those documents were picked up and now they're being processed by the back end capture system. So that's a very powerful piece there. And I always call it, sometimes I'm a broken record on this, but sometimes I call it the wow factor of automation, right? So being able to, what's happening behind the scenes in this process, right? So in this back of the scenes of this process is where what's happening is the auto classification of documents, right? So when those documents get picked up from that folder, if they're scanned or captured from an email account, we're looking at those documents and saying, hey, what kind of document is it? And then we're also looking at the invoices, say it's a PDF or a scanned document, and if it contains one or if it contains multiple. So we can split them and process individually. We're doing data extraction at the header, footer, and line item level, depending on the requirements at that point. So we're looking at the classification saying, hey, this is an invoice. Hey, this is a bill of lading. And by those different classifications, we're defining what data to extract from that invoice. And then we can also apply business rules at this time. So we can say, hey, is there a vendor in the system? Is it a matching process? Is there a variance from the PO to the invoice? And all that good stuff there at that point. Now, the technology itself has core technology intelligence, like I was talking about in the beginning of the webinar here, where it's out-of-the-box technology, like what we call invoice actions. And then we also have definition creation, so you can define, more fine-tuned definitions for those troublesome vendors. And then self-learning capability. So I'll show some of these different capabilities here of the solution in just a second here. So now when this process comes through, so what I'm going to show here is what we call the verification station. And then it has those documents can be routed around through workflows if need be, and then push that ERP data back to the system. So the verification station, again, can be done through the web interface. It can be done through the desktop client. Both of them have the same identical function and capabilities here. But what the solution gives you the capability to do is, from an end user standpoint, in this case, this is usually an AP interface verification. This is going to allow them to do that verification process here and see that information. So usually in batches of documents here. And it's going to show them the documents. It's going to show the document itself. It's going to show the extracted data, any data that's validated. And then even more importantly, it's going to show them why this document is sitting in this interface. So this is a very important piece down here in this rules center. So they can actually come in here. If they have the approval process, they can accept it. If not, they can go to a workflow. But more importantly, they can actually see what the error was, because they can see that information's been validated and all that good stuff. So the technology can actually do that, for you at that point by applying these different business rules here. And this one have a deviation or a variance of 10%, and it's over that 10%, so that you can actually trigger that different event. Now, one of the other things that the solution is doing too from a back-end technology standpoint, so if you see here, I'll change that quantity from a 2 that I picked up to a 1, and then I'm going to hit my enter key. And you'll see it's actually smart enough. It's actually doing math against itself. It's doing arithmetic against itself at the line item level, total levels. So it's validating everything that it's processing. So even though it's extracting an OCR, it's revalidating everything and doing calculations against itself to make sure that that information that it's pulling is correct. So it's a very powerful piece there to be able to do that. This next one is an example of where you can teach it. So this is where it gets, it's got 99% of the information, but I need to teach it some stuff. So you can always come in here and type information. Typing tells it something, but doesn't teach it anything, right? So teaching the solution in here is by clicking on the data and saying, hey, this is the data I want to be in that location. And here's the other piece of data, and here's the other piece of data. So now what it's going to do, it's going to start that process of learning, and so you can submit it to so the next time it processes a batch, from AT with AT Sport Group in it, it's going to remember that through that self-learning process to be able to pull that information off. It's a very powerful piece there. There are different kinds of business rules like this one here in validation where it said, hey, I found 4 matches. Which one do you want? So this is now where I can pull open my vendor master. I can connect it to the ERP system, pull open the vendor master, and then process that information off. Now we also have capabilities, so if it does pick up something wrong the first time and you need to retrain it or tell it something, right, you can do that right from the interface. So in this case here, it picked up 433. It's actually 1,433, so I want to make it smarter and remember, so I can rubber band that information. I can either click on a data value, single data value, or if it's something that I need to rubber band, I can rubber band that information to be able to process that. And then we can do character verification. So if there is some characters that fail that are required during this process, we can do character verification, then confirm it, and then complete that process. And then after that process is done here, we can then send the batch, and that process is now completed. Now, the next step of the process, or could be the next step of the process, right, if need be, is the capability to be able to flow that document around through a workflow process. So we can use our Webdocs system to create those different kinds of workflows. It could be more of an accounts payable queue, where they might interact with that document, might be approval amounts or different kinds of location-based kinds of things like that. But you can create these different kinds of workflows, and then you can also set up a user or users to have different kinds of securities, along with different expiration times inside of here, which will create escalation periods in here. And those are measured in minutes, hours, days, and weeks. And then you can take some kind of back-end action on that, like re-notifying a manager or moving into different steps. Now, from the interface standpoint, all the interfaces are web-based, right? So, like the verification station, we do have that web verification station. So that station I just showed you, that could be web-based. For the invoice approval, it's all done through the web interface. So if you get a link to something, it's going to launch you into the web interface. It's going to ask for your credentials, and it's going to allow either AP or an approver to log into the system to do their input or approval process, right? So this is a workflow queue, or an individual in basket that's going to allow you to see where things are at, if things are awaiting match, or hey, I need to do something with this invoice to do the approval. Maybe I need to GL code it, or I need to put my notes or something in here. This is going to allow you to interact with that document. So we're giving you a single interface to be able to do this process here. And so you can see the data that was extracted during the process or validated by the ERP system. See the invoice inside of here, see an approval information, and it allows you to update information and directly connect to the ERP system. Now, this is where we do have some configuration capability. We have our base forms that you can do there, but you can configure certain things if you're more line item based, or if you're more invoice approval based kind of processes. But this is going to give you that capability to be able to do that approve, reject, and stuff like that, with a more simplified interface, but very, very powerful interface. I don't want to say simplified, meaning it doesn't have a lot of functionality. It has a ton of functionality. We're just doing a lot of that capabilities in the background, like the matching processes and stuff like that, but giving a very simplified user interface to the flow. Now, we also have the capability inside of here to be able to get to the archive document. So Webdocs is part of the solution in the background. So you also have the capability in the solution to be able to get to the documents and searching. Now, this could be done through the ERP system or other ways. Or through our search interface. So we have different ways to be able to integrate this to your ERP systems to be able to provide that information and do those things here. So you do have that capability there and where you can view and access those documents through the application itself. All right, for time purposes, I'm going to skip on over here. We are running on 45 minutes to our allotted time, but I do have about another 5 minutes worth of information. So if you would like to stay, you sure can to be able to go through some of this information here. So the last piece here I want to talk about is updating the ERP system. We have a variety of ways to update ERP system. We have an import process that you can use. So we actually have an XML export that we can fine tune or configure to your ERP import. We have RESTful APIs that you can connect to, or we can connect to your ERP system too if it has RESTful API capability. We can also push data to a staging table. So we can use ODBC. We could use database staging tables, and we don't care what kind of database it is, if it's DB2, SQL, MySQL, just as long as we have access to that database. And then if your system does not have any integration whatsoever, we do have the automation bot capability. This is an add-on package, but there's different layers or different levels you can actually implement from a desktop level to more of a plus version that gives you more processing capabilities. But this will allow you to do sometimes front of glass integration or sometimes a mixture of data integration in the background. All right, so I'm going to get to just a few questions here and then I'm going to let everybody go. We do have a lot of questions, so I'm just going to take a few here since we're running over time. But and for the ones I don't get to today, we will follow up after the webinar. So I apologize for running over here today. All right, the first question. Yes, so does your ERP Webdocs for AP solution have ways to integrate into cloud-hosted ERP systems? The answer is yes. Again, we have multiple ways to be able to do that integration. So it could be an RPA bot that does that, or if in most cases we would use the RESTful APIs that are built into our application to be able to feed that information directly to the system. What are ways that the solution can be deployed? Great question. Solutions are installed mostly on premise for the majority of our customers, but the system is enabled. Is what we call cloud enabled. So it does give you the capability to purchase a license and then implement it into like Azure or AWS or some kind of cloud environment like that. But we don't offer a SaaS version of it, but it is cloud enabled. And again, this other one that we had out here is the integration capabilities. How can we integrate into our screens? And that is done through the REST APIs. We have a full REST API. We have integration capabilities to the IBMI 5250 screens. We have hot linking capabilities through URLs. So we have all those different methods inside of there. All right, for time purposes, since we're running at 48 minutes already, around 48 minutes, there's still some really great questions out there, and I promise I will get back to everybody on those questions. But I just want to sort of finish up and then thank everyone for attending today's webinar. I truly hope you've learned, how AP automation can help your company be more efficient and getting started no matter where you're at in that AP automation journey. If you have any additional questions, or feel free to reach out to myself or the sales team here at Fortra for the document and forms automation, and we'll be happy to schedule a free, process consultation, a live one-on-one demonstration. Even send us some of your sample invoices, and we'll show them going through a process and how that looks. You will receive a link for today, a link to the recording. That you can share, or you might want to rewatch with anyone or you might want to rewatch and reference back to anything. And the last thing to remember, AP automation is a journey, not a destination. Thanks again, and have a great rest of the day and rest of your week.